or four people at the table playing $75,000 deep
I'll give it to you
and
for 10,500.
just
No,
opening
sorry,
to 1,000 or whatever, playing big pots.
Raise to 3,000 total.
Oh, you re-raised it. That's what it was.
Yeah. I re-raised it.
What happened on the flop, though?
Well, a new
And
one.
this, calling with the eights. Oh, gosh.
He must have known Tom was going to flop a set.
5,000.
Now, fast play, slow play, because of the board texture.
I would usually raise
To
as
18,000.
Durrrr here.
And
Sammy really can't fold. He's got the outs with the 6.
Oh, so it's
18,000 more. He's got the outs of the 6, and I mean, the 8s are ahead sometimes here. Are
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we saw a very similar situation where Sammy led out with a gut shot, and Tom raised him with just 2 overcards on a board like this. So, yeah, Sammy's hand is far too strong to be thinking about folding it on the flop. And probably even on the turn. I think he's all but obligated to call another bet here.
Is check calling his best avenue right now?
I would say so, yeah.
Looks like Tom's going pretty deep here. There's a lot of draws out there, right?
There are. Especially with Tom holding 2 of the 7s, a whole lot of the hands Sammy might have continued with are going to be draws or pair plus draw type of hands.
34 to win 76 now for Sammy. And this one of the biggest pots we've seen of late. 110,000 there. I wonder if Sammy might try and... His hand is too strong to sort of make a bet on the river, right? A bluff, I mean...
Yeah, I would not bluff here if I were Sammy. Interestingly, that's a card where Sammy might be very tempted to call if he's thinking about things in a certain way, because he does hold 2 of the 8s. So when Tom bets again here, he's representing very frequently either 8-6 or 8-9. And Sammy has 2 of those 8s, so Tom will show up with a bluff more often than he would otherwise, since Sammy has blockers to some of his strongest hands.
I mean, if Sammy does check here, obviously we know Tom's going to bet, or we think Tom's going to bet.
Yeah,
but
Tom is
would
almost
he,
certainly going to bet.
Would he be betting any one pair hands now?
92,000.
I think he has an interesting decision if he somehow has a 10 here.
Sammy's
Pretty close to the same thing as a larger pair, except that he has to worry about perhaps Sammy having the jack of spades and some other spade.
Sammy in the tank for 92,000, and I wonder, does the big bluff come into play here? Is that in his head?
How could it not be?
Problem is, Tom looks exactly the same as he did when he was bluffing.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's tough to read. Maybe a little more tired than he did an hour or so ago. You really can't blame Sammy for calling here if he does. Most of the draws missed. Tom absolutely can show up with something like King 6 or any 2 spades or 3-2.
I mean, it's been a real cooler, this hand so far.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And Sammy has a stronger hand than he usually will in this spot. More often he'll have something like 7-6 or 5-6. Or...
He seems genuinely on the edge. Couldn't say which way it's going to go.
Yeah, I just don't think he's made up his mind yet. And he lays it down.
Whew, felt, under the circumstances, a very tough pass.
Yeah, I would say so.
Durrrr doesn't show. He wanted to get paid off.
He did.
Oh. My yellows.
And there, Sammy back down to about 400 behind. Sammy George takes another hit. Welcome back to the Full Tilt Poker Durrrr $1 Million Challenge, where Sammy George is hanging in there.
Raised 3,002.
He's been holding himself together, Isaac.
He really has.
Cool.
And fortunately for him, most of the impressive things he's had to do tonight is make big passes.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom has really just had the best hand most of the time.
Cool.
Sort of a lead out, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tom actually limped here. I must be mistaken.
17,000.
I mean, there was certainly 6,000 in there on the flop. I think that Tom raised, Sammy called, and then led.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And Sammy hits his flush.
It's like the
About
first...
time Sammy has the best hand on the river.
Yeah. And he's going to be able to make a bet here where Tom is going to have a very tough time passing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. Tom's kicker plays.
Can we have a new river card? By chance?
This... Wow.
But one of Tom's very toughest river decisions, for sure. He made the right one.
It certainly did. He ain't giving money away when Sammy makes the hands. That's been a big part of this, hasn't it?
It really has. Tom has made a lot of very good folds.
Raised
He's made a couple of
3,000.
incorrect folds, but it doesn't feel like Sammy is bluffing him as often as he should be.
Don't know
We raised to 11,000.
who I heard say, maybe it's Doyle Brunson, that sometimes you have to dog the best hand. Do you think like that sometimes? Where you've got to make... overall, you have to sometimes fold a winner? You know,
Yeah.
balance things out.
17,000.
Yeah, I mean,
Not that you want to, but...
you never think, I know I have the best hand here, but I'm going to fold it anyhow. But, yeah, you're calling too much if your opponent is never successfully bluffing you. I mean, unless your opponent is just a maniac who's always bluffing.
Now, this pot has gotten rather large.
Indeed it has. Durrrr re-raised before the flop and continued on the flop. And both players have big hands here. Sammy's picked up a flush draw to go with his bottom pair.
Cool.
And obviously, Sammy is probably not calling here unless he picks up the flush draw on the river. Is Durrrr starting to worry about the value of his hand?
I don't know. It will depend on what the river card is. On a card 8 or lower, I think Tom has a pretty clear value bet.
Feels like this could be Jack-Queen some of the times, right?
Likely. Up to 70 or so.
132,000 in the pot. I mean, how often can Sammy show up here with King-Queen? Or is that
It's
just being
certainly a
scared of
possibility.
at that point, you're getting scared of shadows?
It's certainly a possibility, but that alone isn't enough to
59,000.
discourage Tom from value betting. You don't have to always win when you value bet and get called for it to be a good bet.
59,000.
Less than half pot. I wonder if he thinks that for this price, Sammy won't think about it too hard and will just
see
throw in the call. Didn't work out.
One left or right?
Left.
Had the queen jack. I'm just feeling friendly since I'm running so good.
Very good.
It's true.
Very good.
Yeah, Sammy did have a lot of outs there. You wouldn't have begrudged him a little old river card, would you?
No, I think he's earned it at this point.
And you can see the preponderance of chips Durrrr has to stack. I believe he is very close to his high water mark.
Yeah, I think so.
Sammy down about 450 right now.
We raised
Got
to
300k exactly in front
That's
of
right.
him.
Cool.
And this a more aggressive play from Sammy than we've seen.
Yeah, he's 3-betting more. He 3-bet that ace-10 off. He's 3-betting pocket fours. I wonder if he's getting impatient, if he wants to try and get even before they're done for the night.
I think we've usually Durrrr has been sort of calling with this sort of hand.
Yeah, Tom is clearly not folding with a flush draw here. It's a spot where he might raise. They are 300 big blinds deep. If he raises, if he makes it, 50,000 or so, it is still deep enough that it's very hard for Sammy to just jam over that raise. So Tom doesn't have to worry too much about being blown off his draw if he is to raise here. All that being said, calling, I think, is the more typical option to choose.
It's black, but not the spade.
Sammy does very relevantly pick up a gut shot here.
38,000.
I mean, that's a heck of a second bullet, or third bullet now. Is it a... What sort of bet is it?
I have to think it's mainly a bluff. Perhaps a bluff designed mainly to fold hands that are currently behind it but have a lot of outs. And that's not going to work out so well for him here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Sammy, you could be thinking to yourself, hey, Tom very likely could have had a 10 here, and this card has been my chance to get him off the pot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wouldn't be a bad way of thinking about the situation. If Tom does have a 10 or a 6, that was a tough card for him.
Well, what it is, I think, Overville.
Yeah.
This is going to hurt.
Most likely he's going to raise here, and Sammy's going to fold.
Mullen.
All in.
Yeah, that's what he's done at Instafold. Of course, it can't call there. And disappointing. No. Sammy pretty much knows that that card hit him.
Yeah. Even if Tom thought he was bluffing, it was probably with a hand better than a pair of fours.
Big pot there, 831,000. Durrrr's got. He only started with 250. Sammy not feeling good.
5,000
Thinking, he's looking
plus.
at his chips right now, thinking, am I going to buy in again? Do I go deeper? And if that's distracting him from the game, it's going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
There's no fun.
Not feeling
You know,
good at the moment.
No. I think with most gamblers, or most poker players, you remember
Raised 3.
the times when you've had a session where you lose a lot than you do when you win a lot. In fact, do you have that? I mean,
I definitely think so. Yeah, for almost all poker players, losing is worse than winning is good. The couple people who that's not true for are usually broke.
it burns into your brain, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
Yeah, no.
Nobody is just the same whether they win or lose. Some people take losing harder. Some people get more excited about winning. The ones who get more excited about winning, they go broke. If losing doesn't hurt, you don't hold on to your money as a poker player.
I think that's very well said. Although on the outside, show nothing.
Of course.